I got married just a few months ago. I did, and so we are still newlyweds. But I was talking to a man who had been married for quite some time. He wasn't a newlywed, but I was sharing with him how my wife is an angel. Really, she is. He said, "Your wife is an angel?" He said, "Wow, you're lucky." He said, "My wife is still alive." But like I said, we got married just a few months ago, and when we did, we had a big celebration, a big ceremony in a church, and a lot of food and a lot of people and stuff. And I shared with them how anytime there's a celebration, it reminds me of the time that I visited a monastery a few years back, and I asked the priest that was in charge. I said, "Why is it that you guys never marry and that sort of thing?" He said, "Well, it's in the founding documents, the documents of our order." He said, "All the members of this order must keep celibate for life." I said, "Well, what page is that written on?" He said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "The priest that was here before me," and this gentleman was a very elderly gentleman, but he said, "The priest that was here before me, that was in charge," he said, "he told me." He said, he's dead now. I said, "Well, what page did he say it was on?" He said, "Well, he didn't know. He'd never read the documents either. The priest that was here before him told him, and the priest before him told him," and said, and so on. He said, "No one has read the founding documents for hundreds of years, probably." He said, "But it's in there, and I can show you if you'd like." He said, "I'll go down to the library, and I'll be right back." And so he left, and I waited, and I waited, and waited, and he never came back. And so finally I went down to the library to see if something was wrong, and I found him, and he was sitting on the floor, and he had some papers crumpled up in his hand, and he was weeping, and he looked up at me, and he said, "It says celebrate." But my wife and I visited another elderly couple that had been married for quite a while for a dinner one night, and when we went in, the gentleman had a conversation with his wife that was in another room, and when they finished, I said, it's really special that after all these years of marriage, you still refer to your wife and speak to her with such pet names as honey and sweetheart and that sort of thing, because that's what he'd been calling her. I said, "That's really special." He said, "Well, I do that when I've forgotten something important." I said, "Oh, well, you must have forgotten her birthday." He said, No, I didn't forget her birthday." I said, "Well, then you must have forgot your anniversary." I said, "No." He said, "No, I didn't forget our anniversary." I said, "Well, then you must have forgot Valentine's Day." "How could you?" He said, "No." He said, "I didn't forget Valentine's Day." I said, "Well, then what have you forgotten?" He said, "I've forgotten her name." But my wife and I have developed the practice of every night before we go to bed, we end our day with prayer. And every prayer we end the same way. We pray every night, "Lord, whenever you're ready to take us home with you, we are ready to go with you." Every night. And so one night, just after we had prayed and turned in, we heard a voice come from above. We didn't know it at the time. It was some kids in the neighborhood who were playing a prank on us. But they were up on the roof calling down the chimney. But at that time, all of a sudden, a voice came from above, and it said, James, it's the Lord. I've come to take you home with me." My wife said, "James isn't here right now." The voice said, "Oh, well, in that case, I'll just take you instead." My wife said, "Get out from under the bed, James. The Lord knows you're there." Well, I'm sure you're ready for me to go, and I'm ready to go too. Thank you.